Welcome to Undrafted Hockey Fan. We are a part of the Hockey Podcast Network, and today we're talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs and going over some of their offseason moves, what I think the roster is going to look like as well, some things that I think they need, and talking about, of course, the infamous Marner thing. So we're going to go over a couple things. So let's just jump right into it because that's why you guys are here. That's why you clicked on the video. So, of course, showing the two amazing stars, Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. I know Mitch Marner has a bit of controversy, but, like I said, we're going to go over that today. So, going over what happened last season, Toronto Maple Leafs finished 46, 26, and 10. And then, of course, what they're, of course, known for is their playoff play. And, of course, the Boston Bruins defeated the Toronto Maple Leafs in the first round, 4-3, Game 7. Looking over it real quick, I mean, Boston wasn't so much better in the standings than the Leafs. You can see it's 47-20, 15, and Toronto Maple Leafs 46, 26, 10. So more losses. They had more overtime wins. It kind of ended up balancing out, but really points wise, they weren't too far away. And then you go to the games. Again, you have Toronto losing. I mean, they losing in Boston's barn. That makes sense. Second game, Toronto Maple Leafs winning in Boston's barn. That's a good sign. It's a good start. Then coming back, Bruins beating Toronto in Toronto, and then Bruins beating them again in Toronto. So it's crazy that now Toronto Maple Leafs have to go back to Boston, and of course they did. They win 2-1 in OT, which is tough to do, especially on the road. And then you have Game 6. You have them versing again Boston, winning again, but this is in their own barn in Toronto, and then going back to Game 7, losing 2-1 in overtime. It was brutal. I really thought they were going to go to the second round, but Boston just proved to be too powerful. So that's a bummer for them. I think they're going to finish in a similar spot by third or second in the division this year. Florida's just a monster. Tampa Bay kind of stayed the same. Maybe got a little worse with losing Stamkos. They did get Jake Gensel. But you have Detroit's not good enough to beat them, right? Buffalo isn't, Ottawa isn't, Montreal's definitely not. So it is a tough division. Those top four is probably just going to be rearranged a different way. I still see Tampa being in the fourth place. Again, Boston didn't really get better in my opinion. They did get Lindholm and Zadorov, but we're going to do a Boston. We'll do a Boston breakdown and Tampa Bay breakdown before the season starts as well. So if you're interested in those teams, let me know. So moving on. We have going on to the postseason, the regular season. Now we're going to talk about Mitchie Marner. Okay, so everyone's talking about Mitch Marner. He's not a playoff player, and he kind of isn't. The thing is he produces amazing results. He is 27 years old, a right winger, right shot. Still, he's 6 foot, but doesn't have a ton of size on him. 172. God, I wish I weighed 172. That'd be phenomenal. I'm 5'10", though. So, in 69 games, he had 85 points for a 1.23 points per game. I mean, that's a phenomenal production, and that's exactly what you want to see. And I think last year he had 99 points. So actually, let's go down to his stats real quick. You can see 99 points in 80 games, 97 points in 72 games. I mean, this guy's over a point per game since he started, I think. Oh, besides in 17, 18, and 16. So since the 18-19 season, he's been a point per game per player, which is amazing. That's phenomenal. But the thing is you can't just have to perform well in the regular season. You have to perform well in the postseason as well. And that is something that we see with the stars of the Toronto Maple Leafs just not doing. And the thing is if you were going to trade Marner, you would have traded him last season before his no movement clause kicked in. And that's the issue with right now is Marner has a no movement clause. So he gets to decide where he wants to go. And he wants to play with Toronto. So he's not going to waive it. There was speculation that he could have been traded to Vegas. And that is something that is an opportunity potentially at the trade deadline. But I still think that they ride out the season. They ride him out. And I think they end up losing him. Potentially, they maybe are able to move him, kind of like the Gensel was able to be traded to Tampa for a third round pick. But overall, I don't think anyone's going to pay to try and get Marner. I think Marner wants to stay with Toronto Maple Leafs, and I honestly could see a situation where they extend him. He's already making $10 million a year, so $10.9 million, and in my opinion, they signed William Nylander to an $11.5 million deal. So I actually see them end up signing Mitch Marner to a similar deal, maybe like $11.75, but a similar deal as well. But then you have $11.75 Marner, you have $11.5 Nylander, and then you have a $13.25 million per year Austin Matthews. So should they do it? I don't know, because he's 27 at that point. So do you sign him to an 8-year contract? I think you let him go. But there is talks of them potentially signing him. Again, I don't think that's the right move. I think you trade him if you can, if he wants to, if you can get a good value for it. But I can see them doing the Vegas one. That is the big one. I think Nashville's another great one. I think he would love Nashville. The hockey market, it's a good hockey market, but it's not super public. Like Ryan O'Reilly talks about it a lot, and I think that Ryan O'Reilly talks about so much about how Nashville's a little more calm. Toronto's kind of like this media center. It's kind of tough to be around because everyone knows who you are. Nashville, you can kind of walk to the grocery store and not have to worry about, everyone knowing who you are. So I could see Marner going to like Nashville or Vegas, somewhere it's a little less hockey markety. But we know he wants to stay with Toronto right now. And at least that's what the agent is saying about him. Because of course, hey, it's a selling point. We want to stay here. And then that way you got to get what you want if you're able to, you're now able to give in a little bit. So I don't know, I see them re-signing him, which is kind of a bummer. But I wish they would trade him. I think they just need to. I think it's just the experiment's kind of over at this point. So moving on to going over. So now what they traded and what they picked up last year, who they let go and who they re-signed. So they traded for Chris Tanev. They sent out Max Ellis, who did not end up signing with the Dallas Stars, and a 7th-round pick to get the rights to Tanev. Signed him to a nice big contract, and he was going to be in like 6 years, I believe. We'll go over it when it comes up. So they re-signed Max Domi, 4-year contract. They re-signed Tim Liljegren, 4-year contract. They extended with Joseph Woll. So he's already on a contract right now for like $700 and some change. And they signed him to a 3-year deal. They let Bertuzzi go, Brody, Clifford, Domi again re-signed. They let Edmondson go. He picked him up at the deadline. Dylan Gambrell, Giordano, Martin Jones, Klingberg, Labushkin, Matt Murray, Jake Muzzin, Sam Smith. Dang, they let a lot of guys go. A lot of guys that felt like they were really Leafs. I know, Labushkin they traded for. Klingberg didn't end up working out. Matt Murray, again, stayed in the AHL all the time. Muzzin, issues there with health. But no, Tanev, they re-signed. So Matt Lajoie let go. Pete Petruzzelli, who was a Detroit goalie at one point. Oh, they did re-sign Matt Murray probably as their third. Stolars as their backup. Great pickup. I suggest this for the Red Wings as well. I think there's a great pickup, a great backup goaltender, and probably can even fight for that due to a 1A, 1B situation with Woll. I think that's phenomenal. He played really well as a backup for Bobrovsky. And again, Stanley Cup winner. So that's a great, and speaking of Stanley Cup winner, by the way, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Stanley Cup winner. So you're signing 2 guys who just came off a fresh Stanley Cup, the mindset, and you got to, on the D side and now on the goalie, that's huge. That huge confidence of guys that have been there and done it, right? Tanev signed him to a 6-year contract. He's a pretty old player. I think right now he's got to be, let's see how old he is. I think he's like 30 something. He's 34, I believe. And they ends up taking to his 40-year season, 40-year-old season. Yeah, he's 34 right now. So that is a little bit of a concern. But again, they're planning on winning now, right? Within the Matthews contract, they can win now. And it says they signed Hakanpää, but that has not been confirmed yet. They're still waiting on a health analysis for him. And a couple like lower AHL signings, and they ended up re-signing Connor Dewar as well. So he ended up getting a $1.1 million contract, and then they re-signed their first-round pick in the draft. So moving on. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that all the things that they have done as well. Okay, so some of the things that they still need after doing all this, they still need a left-handed winger and a right-handed D. We're gonna go over the roster in a little bit, but right now let's address the left-handed wingers, because right now there's 2 people that they don't have signed right now, and that's Alex Steeves, who played mostly in the AHL last year, and Nick Robertson, who played mostly in the NHL last year. So the comparisons I want to give. So go to Alex Steeves. Okay, he has a qualifying hour offer of $8.14. Right, he is 24 years old, so he's still an RFA. They still control his rights, so he doesn't have much say on what's going to happen. So he had 57 points in 65 games. Phenomenal AHL season. Again, 51 points in 65 games. Great production. Even improved a little bit from last year. But to me, and he's only played 7 games in the NHL, and he put up 1 point, and that was 2 years ago. So to me, it's kind of, what have you done for me lately? And as an NHLer, he has not been there yet. He's been a great AHLer, but does that mean it's going to translate in the NHL? And there's no guarantee there, right? So when you're looking at a guy like Alex Steeves, So he plays a center shot. He shoots left. So that's a great left-handed winger. You could potentially move him to the wing, right? Big body, 196, 6 foot, right? It's 20 pounds bigger than Mitch Marner, by the way, just to let you know. It's still kind of what have you done for me lately? So in my head, I think he signs for. I think the issue is that they don't want to sign him to his qualifying offer. I think they want to give him less. I'm gonna say this is kind of where I can see Alex Steves fitting. So Joe Veleno for the Red Wings signed an $800,000 contract, which is less than what he was making as a center. And this is last year, and they just re-signed him this year. So I think Alex Steves does something around the 800 to 850 spot. And so, and the reason I see a comparison is there is similar. There's a guy, Albert Johans. He's a defenseman, but he's played for the Wings. Again, this is my comparison. I'm very familiar with the Wings. He's again defenseman, different position, not a similar production, but played really well, and was probably one of their top pair. It was one of their top pair defensemen. And you're seeing a top player on the team in the AHL, and he just signed for $775. I think Alex Steves probably does a little bit better. So I think he does 800 to 850. But again, it's what have you done for me? And by the way, also the cap space that the Leafs are limited with is huge. So if we go over their cap space, they're only at 1.275 million. By the way, I'm going to try and get that up, and I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to do it. But really, he hasn't done much. So why would you give a guy a contract who hasn't done anything for you? So in my head, I think so. What we're going to do, and we're going to do a full roster breakdown of what's going to look like. Going down here, going to the restricted agents, we're going to go Alex Steves. I think it makes the most sense because if he was willing to accept the qualifying offer, he would have took it. I don't think the Leafs want to do that, and nor should they. I think it goes 800,000. I think that makes do it for 1 year, prove it, bring him up. He's a left-handed. He can be one of your extras, right? So I'm okay with Alex Steves getting that. Again, good production. Again, he's a restricted free agent. I don't think he can go through waivers anymore, so you got to bring him up anyways. So I think you sign him to a good spot like that. I think that makes total sense. Now, Robertson is the other issue. So Robertson played. I mean, he's played a lot. He's played actual NHL games, so I don't think he's gonna have the same instance that Alex Steves does. He's 22 years old, and he has a same qualifying offer, but he was up a half a point per game, almost 27 points in 56 games. And again, he's played other seasons as well. He played last year 15 games, and the year before that played 10 games. So he has played well. He has had some injury, which is one of the downsides. And so I see them. To me, it's going to be between $1 million and it's going to be $1.5 million. So, and I think the thing is he's also requested for a trade. And I think the Toronto Maple Leafs would be stupid to do that because we own your rights. So we own your rights. You're not going anywhere. Jake DeBrusk requested a trade from the Boston Bruins twice over 2 years. So, and they said, no, we're not trading for you. And now, by the way, it was the best thing for DeBrusk because he left the Bruins in free agency and signed like a 7x7 with the Vancouver Canucks. Something crazy. Made a huge amount of money, generational wealth. So great for him. Same thing happened with Ilya Mikheyev and by the way, I've listened to C. Dangle plenty. So this is some of his talking points, and he does a great job, which is, I'm not totally referencing his stuff, but there's some things that I believe as well with him. And we differ on pricing a little bit. So, and some of the moves, but Ilya Mikheyev did it as well, where he, they requested a trade. Kyle Dubas said no, and he leaves, signs with the Vancouver Canucks, makes a ton of money, and now he's in the Chicago Blackhawks, still making a ton of money. So I think it just depends on what's the best interest of the player and the team. In this case, for Robertson, I think the only people who are going to value Robertson are the Leafs to the extent that of the money wise, right? Unless he thinks he can get more opportunity. But in my opinion, the more opportunity is going to be with the Leafs because they know what you are and they value what you are because that's why they picked you and that's why they want you. So they're keeping you in your organization. So I can see him playing like second line left wing. And again, this is kind of what we're talking about. We're trying to find needs to the left-handed wings, and we're trying to find a right-handed D. So for the left-handed wing, again, we signed Alex Steves. Again, only an AHL guy, so we don't know what's going to happen to him. But I think for him, it makes the most sense. I'm going to say 1.2. We're going to jump over to Puckpedia. I think 1.2 makes the most sense at this point. I think you're not, and give him a 1-year contract. Say, okay, I think you are good enough for a year, and prove it to us. Prove us that you earn more money and you deserve term. And if you don't if you're not able to perform, we'll trade you, we'll do whatever. But you need to prove it to us that you're going to be a staple in this place. Because right now Matthew Knies has really stapled himself as that first line center or first line winger. So I think you sign into that. I think that makes a ton of sense. Now the issue is we're now $724,000 over the cap. Also, by the way, the reason I'm also picking 1.2, I think that makes the most sense, is Connor Dewar. Connor Dewar is was traded for at the deadline. 25 years old, had 57 games last year, 14 points, so less points, right? Then he played 17 games with the Toronto Maple Leafs, had only 5 points, again, similar production. But he made 1.18. So I think that's a very interesting number. And again, he's older than Robertson, but Robertson produced more. So I say, okay, well, let's give you the 1.2. I think that makes a ton of sense. Again, I'd go up to 1.5, and I'll show you why I can go up to 1.5 after the break, because we're going to show you the whole roster and what I would do for the breakdown. So moving on, I think this makes the most sense. You put them up here. So now we're going to be going over the roster, but first I have to do a quick break, do a couple ad reads, and then we will jump right back into it. And so let's do that right now. Do you know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan is there's only 2 days the whole year without a game. With so much happening and so much action, that just makes every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. You can go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, place your first bet, and it's really couldn't be any easier or any simpler. Some of the things we're talking about the games is right now you're seeing that there's baseball, of course, playing a ton of games throughout the summer. Trade deadline already just passed. And then also football is also going into some games and preseason games. We saw the fight between the Giants and the Lions at their shared practice. So there's a lot of good things happening in the summer. So again, you can pick the spread, the total, the money line, whatever you want. You can do over-unders. Go at it. Check it out at DraftKings Sportsbook. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check out this. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boo Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas City. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Deposit and eligibility and restrictions apply. See terms and responsible gaming resources at dkng.co/base. And then moving on to our next ad, we have BetterHelp. And this show, The Undrafted Hockey Fan, is brought to you by BetterHelp. Some of the things that you're to talk about with the summer, the activities kind of get crazy. You work on big projects over the summer because you want to get outside. It's easy to let your priorities slip. I mean, even when we know something makes us happy, it's hard to make time for therapy because, hey, it's summer. You want to get outside. You want to enjoy it. And there's some non-negotiables like therapy that are more important than ever because you need to prioritize you. You never skip leg day, and neither should you skip therapy day either, right? I mean, personally, I benefited a ton from therapy. It's just good to have a third party talking to someone, giving a different perspective on the life and making you feel like sometimes you're not crazy. Or if you feel like you're going a little crazy, maybe it's either a good person that can justify it, or they can say, hey, maybe we should help you with some of those thoughts. And it's good to get a third person perspective because you're not alone when you're going through this. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional cost. And now, never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN. And now, back to the show. All right, now we're jumping back into the roster building. Okay, so we have our roster written out, and I got a couple things I want to hit when it comes to this because right now we are $724,000 over the cap. So we have to make some room here, right? And mind you, we're still running a 23-man roster. And again, we still haven't addressed the right-handed defenseman issue, right? So we're gonna go through the forwards first because I think that's the most important for right now. Okay, so starting off, Matthew Nyes, Austin Matthews, Marner. Marner's not going anywhere, so we're going to play him with Matthews. They seem to play really well. And if there's any lulls during the season, we can always swap Nylander up, so that's not a huge issue. We can swap them, right? But I see Marner, Matthews as being there. Also, if you're trying to trade Marner, you want to give him the highest value. Playing with one of the best players in the world, probably a top 3 player in the world, top 5 at least. So then you have Matthew Nyes, of course. You're trying to make sure that you have what you have in him is the real deal. And again, he seems to be playing really well with that line. So then you have Bobby McMahon and Tavares and Nylander. Okay, that's an expensive. Those lines, of course, are expensive. We already know this. It's a Toronto Maple Leafs. Come on. So this is where Bobby McMahon has played well. He's shown he can be a goal scorer, and I really like that. But this is why we bring up Nick Robertson. So you put him on that second line, and similar again. I've listened to a lot of Steve Dangle podcasts, and one thing he's talked about is so you have Matthew Nyes, who is a kind of grit guy. He can go in the boards. Same with Robertson. He can be a goal scorer. So to me, you could again Marner might play better with Robertson just to help boost him up a little bit. Again, I think your left wing stay the same. I think your center stay the same. You can switch Marner up in the top line or Nylander on the top line. It wouldn't honestly matter because they're just that great. Then you got moving on your third line, right? So Bobby McMahon then slots in, and I think Pontus Holmberg slides in somewhere around here. So you have your left wing of Bobby McMahon, Max Domi playing third line center. I'm actually a big fan of that. I think he plays a good grit game. I think it's a reasonable contract that he signed for 4 years at $3.375 million. And Kelly Yarncroke, I love Kelly Yarncroke. I can't believe they want to talk about this trading him. We're still to make room. So I'm still working through that, and I'll show you who we're going to move in a second. A couple of guys we can move in a second, but who has been suggested, and I agree with. Yarncroke is a great grinder, great penalty kill guy. To me, why move him at all, right? David Kampf is another one that's talked about being moved, a bit expensive for a fourth line center. But again, he plays the penalty kill, and he's like, who are you going to put as fourth line center, right? You could put Pontus Holmberg, I guess, Dewar, but like these guys are maybe a little less natural as centers. They can do it, but it's not advised, I'd say. So at this point, and maybe they'll pan out that way. If they end up moving Kampf to the wing or like scratching him, like then that gives you a reason to move out on him. And Ryan Reeves, of course, glue guy, you can move him wherever. But with the handedness and everything, Ryan Reeves makes sense on the right wing. But again, you kind of move some of these guys around, especially because, like, I mean, you can move Connor Dewar over. You can move whoever. I see Steves being the scratch. I see Ryan Reeves also being the scratch. I see moving Dewar to the right wing and then moving Pontus Holmberg up to the left wing. Again, Ryan Reeves can be a scratch. You can fill him in wherever you need to. Steves, again, I don't think you can waive him because he's too old at this point. And so he's gonna slide in where we need to, right? Maybe Holmberg's not having a great night. Maybe you want to slide in, just see what you have in him. I think this just makes a ton of sense. So forward group, I'm pretty happy with. Their left-handed side is maybe a little weaker, right? You know, because they're just so stacked on the right side. But I think Nye is going to get a good payday next year. Robert said that's a little side if they keep him or not. But overall, I don't mind these. Again, Holmberg and McMahon on the third and fourth line, great, fine, totally okay. That's something they're probably going to have to address in the trade deadline if they're looking to trade someone. Really fixing this left side, I think that would be advantageous. And that'd be maybe a good time to trade Robertson as well, right? Also, they don't want to, mind you, the 1.2 is also because, like, when you're trading a guy who wants a trade, you can't pay him too much that teams don't want to take him. You have to pay him enough that he's happy, that you stand under the cap, and that teams will want him, right? Like, if you pay Nick Robertson $4 million, no one's going to want him because he's too expensive for what he produces. He would like the payday, don't get me wrong, but you need to be able to give him. It's kind of one of the reasons Marner is expensive and he has no movement clause, but even if he had no movement clause, like $10.9 million is a lot of, like, you need to be able to take back money, which Leafs don't want. They want that cap space. Or you're going to send out picks with it. It's just harder the more expensive the guys get, right? Luckily, Marner does bring a lot of value. It just less than the playoffs, that's all. So, again, this left side I think is going to be a little bit more of an issue, but again, this will hold you okay for a while throughout the regular season. Okay. Now, moving on to the defense. You pick up Tanev, great pickup. Pick up Ekman Larson as well. Good pickup. Again, you're paying Ekman Larson for the power play specialist aspect of it. I think he'll end up playing mostly on the power play 2, maybe power play 1 if Morgan Riley doesn't end up playing on power play 1. But again, you're playing it for the power play specialist aspect of it. And again, the reason you're paying him a little extra, a little bit. So usually with free agency, what I've been told is guys usually make about $1 million more per year, and they're usually paid for one more year than they should because they're a free agent, right? So because there's people vying for him. So Ekman Larson being paid, it could, if he got paid 3 years at $2.5 million, I think everyone would be psyched, right? But that you add a little extra year, you add an extra $1 million, and that's what you get. Similar with Tanev, right? Although Tanev has made $4.5 million his whole career, so I think you probably give him you can't pay him extra more money, but give him an extra year or two, more than you want. You probably wanted him for 4, sign him for 6. You'll figure out the last 2 years later, right? You can always buy him out then or something, or move him. But he does have a no movement clause, so that is they just give these out like it's Christmas, dude. And Ekman Larson has a modified no trade clause as well, so I'm curious on what that's going to be. Either way, so you have Ekman Larson, Benoit, and Riley. I think I'm okay with this. Ekman Larson, his defensive is not as good, which is why you put him on the third pair. Liljegren just signed the $3 million for 2 years. I'm okay with that. McCabe, Benoit, I think that's a good, solid pair. Tanev, Morgan Riley, that'd be awesome. I would love for Liljegren to play with Riley. I think that'd be great. And the reason I would want to do this is how I would like to do it, ideally. I think you move McCabe down, you swap these. I think because this distributes the talent a little bit more. Although Benoit is a little bit more. Benoit's a little more. He's a defensive guy. He's not the offensive guy. So you have more Morgan Riley's kind of like a 2-way. Ekman Larson's more of a just offense. Benoit's a defense. I guess it's fine. We'll put Tanev up there. So that way, I mean, you're not going to put Tanev on your third pair with Ekman Larson. But something of this. I mean, you can move the pairings around. But overall, this is going to be your top 6. Because Timmins was either injured or he's been sick. And he only played 25 games. Look at what he did last year. He played 25 games in 10 points in 25 games. So not a ton of time. And even the year before that, he played 25 games. So you're not getting a ton of production out of him. And I think the Leafs are like, okay, I think we're over him. I think we're done with him. So this is where the cap space comes in my opinion, is you end up sending Timmins down. You either trade him or you send him down. If you send him down, you save 1.1, and now you have $375,000 to work with. And now this kind of gives you the little bit of edge work of what you could have paid Robertson. You maybe pay Steves a little bit more, but now you have a 22-man roster. You'd like another defenseman, right? You'd like another defenseman, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think Robertson potentially can be sent down still. You could also send down Reeves as well. I don't think anyone's going to pick up that contract, and then bring up another guy. I know there's a lot of talk about Easton Cowan, Fraser Minton. These guys are talked about quite well. I mean, there's a ton of guys you can bring up. Topi Niemela, by the way, you also want so you have your 3. Well, Tanev, Jake McCabe has a left-handed D. You'd like to bring up another right-handed D, like I was saying. So maybe you bring up a Topi Niemela, right? Philippe Myers. There's other guys you can bring up. I mean, I think they just brought in Cade Weber. There's a lot of guys you can bring up as rookies, and which probably wouldn't be a bad idea because Jake McCabe is going to be gone next year, right? And so you probably need to bring up a young guy just to see what they got. Unless they end up re-signing him, which I don't even know how old is he. I don't think he's that old. He's 30, so I don't know if they end up re-signing him at a $4 million. Oh yeah, he's a $4 million cap hit because he was retained with Chicago. That's why half was retained. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, so I think that makes a ton of sense. I think Timmins just hasn't produced the way you'd like him to. And I don't mind this. I think you still need a right-handed defenseman. I think you need a left winger. I like your depth in the center. I like Domi as your third. I mean, you can always move him up to the left wing as well. But then again, you need someone to take over center. So I think Max Domi ends up staying as your third line center. I think that just makes total sense. Again, you're not putting comp there. You're not putting most people there. I really like Yarncroke. And by the way, they still have Nylander as a center. William Nylander is not a center. They tried it. They tried it several times. He's not a center, okay? He's just not it. He's too lackadaisical. And he puts up points on the wing. Let him do his thing, okay? It's not his position, okay? Lastly, we have Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. So this Joseph Woll just signed a 3-year contract. Wow. So why is he only making $766? Well, that's because the 3 years is extended for next year. So this up and coming year, he's only making $766, and then Stolarz making $2.5. Again, I think they're gonna be fighting the 1-2 spots for the 1A 1Bs. And I like that. I think that's a good backup in Stolarz. I think Joseph Woll is proved he played really well in the playoffs. If he didn't get hurt before the 7th game, I think they potentially could have won it, like in potentially taking the 2nd round. So hopefully he continues to work out, but that's going to be riding on Woll to play well. I think Stolarz plays for 30 to 40 games, probably more closer to 30. Hopefully they see Woll take over a bigger spot. I mean, how many games did he play last year? He only played 25. I mean, he had decent numbers as well, but he only 25 games. I mean, I think that's one of the first times. I don't love that. So I guess maybe it is a 1A 1B. Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, 22, 23, he played only 7 games, had great numbers though. I think this is going to be a 1A 1B situation just because Joseph Woll hasn't taken on. You're not going to go from 25 games to 50 games. It's just that type of workload is just tough on a goalie. I mean, how old is he, by the way? I mean, he's not old. He's 26. I think he's the same age as Matthews. So he's kind of coming into his own at this point. And I think that makes a ton of sense. Especially with Stolarz playing half as well. I think this makes, and he's 30. He played 27 games in the regular season with great numbers, .925. That's really good. And basically 2 goals against. I'm a big fan of that. So I think this makes a ton of sense. I'm happy with this. Again, I think you're going to bring up a young guy at some point. Someone's going to get hurt, so you're going to free up some cap space there. But I think you're going to run 22 guys right now. But I'm pretty happy with this situation. I'm going to publish this. So if you want to critique this on Puckpedia, you can type in Undrafted Hockey Fan. You'll find it, and it'll be my Toronto Maple Leafs. You can comment on it. You can dislike, put all the poop emojis if you want on there. And if you did like this video, let me know. Put a comment down there. Put your favorite emoji down there. My current favorite is the chicken. Big fan of that one. But if you have a different favorite emoji, I don't care what it is. Comment it. It helps out small creators like me, and we really appreciate it at the Hockey Podcast Network. So hit like, subscribe. Love you. Comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Rip me to shreds and tell me what I did wrong. Because you know what? I don't mind being wrong. Love you guys.